So today we're interviewing Holden Sapp, tour guide extraordinaire. We're over here. Our host today is the Carneros Mercantile. Carneros Mercantile is right on the corner of Old Sonoma Road and Old Sonoma Highway, I guess. I think it's the coolest store in the Napa side of Carneros, personally. So thank you so much today for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure, Ralph.
So, how many years you've been in the business for a while now? You started, I know, working for someone else before.
Yeah, I moved to the Valley in 2010, started working part-time and kind of private guiding along with other parts of the wine industry back in 2012, and then have kind of been working for myself and on my own on the guiding side of the business since 2017.
Yeah, and like most of the top guys, you work primarily with, the high-end customers.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's small, higher-end groups is kind of the focus. Nothing against the larger kind of join-in tours, but absolutely private, small, high-end.
Well, you run SUVs, is that correct?
Yeah. So most group sizes are 2 to 4 people. Have done lots of singles, and obviously can fit up to 7 in a single vehicle. But with the groups of 12 to 14, it usually makes sense to go with the vans, but we've done those as well.
Right. And then, what's the name of your company?
Alluvium Wine Tours.
Alluvium Wine Tours. Nice. I like that, along the side of the water. Well, where are you from originally?
Born in San Mateo, but I grew up in Kirkwood, California, just south of Lake Tahoe.
Oh, I know where Kirkwood is.
Yeah.
Yes. The snow is deep in the
yes,
wintertime.
Absolutely.
Yes, which explains to me why in the wintertime I hear, I'm off skiing again. Okay.
When it slows down a little bit here, it's about a 3-hour drive, so it's easy for me to pop back when need be, but I spend a lot of free time up there when I can.
So what is it that you like about the business?
Oh, it's all about relationships. It's meeting people like you, like Carrie. This is an incredibly collaborative industry where, even though we're all technically direct competitors, I mean, we're very friendly with each other and mean it. It's not just at face value. And there's lots of we don't have direct coworkers for the most part. There might only be 2 or 3 of us at some of these smaller companies, but to really kind of get out and meet people all throughout the industry, incredibly nice and generous people, and we just get to be outside and hang out with people while they're on vacation all the time. Yeah. And it's you never worry about going to work because everybody's always having a great time, and the hours are not too bad either. Between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. We're not out until midnight like other parts of the service industry, so that can be pretty nice too.
Yeah, being a guide is rather special. It's funny. I toured with these 3 couples one time. They were all originally from Cuba, and one couple was much more friendly and more fun than the other 2. The other 2 were both kind of serious. And I finally said to him, "Why are you guys so different?" He says, "Well, you see, they're both heart doctors, and so their work is very serious. But I'm a jeweler, so everyone who comes into my shop, they're buying something. They're buying a ring or something for commemorate something. It's like your work. Everyone you see is in a good mood."
Yep.
It never occurred to me that was true. Everyone I see is in a good mood.
I tell people all the time when they ask about my horror stories, you must have some great horror stories of other clients, and my answer is always, not really. I mean, even on people's, even terrible people, when they're happy, they're easy to be around. Right. And pretty much everybody out here is pretty darn happy because they're in wine country drinking wine, so what's not to like?
Yeah, and after that first tasting, they're always in a bitter mood.
Yes. The little hair of the dog from the night before is kind of the, sometimes necessary, but for the most part, everybody's, really excited to be out here, and you just get to help facilitate that and help them exceed their expectations of what the day could be, which fortunately for us is fairly easy to do with, like I said, all the good relationships that we've got in the Valley.
Well, it changed a lot, and you've been doing it long enough that you remember before COVID when we could just drop in places.
Yep.
Go to 5 wineries in a day.
4 to 5 wineries in a day, be super quick, 45-minute tastings, and now there are these experiences where they're kind of justifying some of these larger price points, and it's a very different kind of vibe, if you would, in the Valley. But I think it's been a good change because, they're expecting you when you show up. They're giving you one-on-one experiences that you could find beforehand, but now it's kind of the norm.
Well, when you're planning a tour out, how much interaction do you have with the guests beforehand?
Usually there's a series of kind of text messages, emails, phone calls. Obviously, with return clients, we've got notes on what they've enjoyed in the past or where they've been in the past, and kind of how to build off of that. But normally, I'd like to kind of block out at least an hour of time, up to an hour. Sometimes it's a lot quicker, but just to chat on the phone, figure out tastes and preferences, experience, expectations, budget, because budget is a very big part of it lately. And I start taking notes while they're on the phone and jotting down ideas that I, hope will mesh together. And then I take all that information at the end and then start to put together a day.
And of course, the larger the party is, the more complicated it is.
Yes and no. I feel like that was the case pre-COVID because you were doing a lot of those drop-in places. But because these days with if you're making reservations, all the way down to lunch reservations, which are 4 reservations a day, a group of 2 people, a group of 6 people is not that different. But obviously can dictate which places you choose. But for the most part, since they are private experiences, it's not trying to find a 2-top versus a 4-top and a 6-top. And so I've found that it hasn't really dictated a lot of the itinerary unless I'm taking into account who's in the group. There might be mobility issues. So we've got one coming up next month or later this month that, we don't want to do a lot of walking.
Exactly. Well, I find sometimes you'll have, if people are very serious about wine, a second person will get involved and they'll be included in the email. And next thing you know,
not uncommon to all of a sudden get group emails going or group suggestions or text messages or somebody booking out the transportation and then passing along the choices to other people in the group. And obviously, the more people you have, the more input there will be on budget, and you might be kind of catering to all sorts of different tastes and preferences. But like I said, you're in wine country drinking wine, so life is pretty great out here.
I oftentimes find that they'll say, well, can you keep the tasting fee in this range? But I'm okay with one expensive one.
Yeah.
Like one,
You average it out, right? If everybody says $75 per person, then you do $150 and $100 and then $175. You're right about there. It's nice not to have to worry about budget, but at the core of this, it's all about money, and you want to make sure that people are getting good value. So when people are telling me that they're planning to buy wine, I tend not to worry about those fees as much because they will never see any of them. And I tell people, if you have a budget on tasting fees and you don't plan to bring wine home, then I take those into a much bigger account to make sure that you're getting good value out of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you're buying quite a bit of wine, they're not going to charge a tasting fee.
Yeah, and so and if we know that from the get-go and we kind of know bottle price points, it's really less of an issue.
Well, it's funny. Up on the mountain, Ovid, of course, is very expensive.
Yeah.
But I've had no one go there who actually paid the fee.
Right.
Because either they were members or they were going there and they were bringing their credit card. Because that's that's why they had the fee. They want to kind of weed out the people who aren't interested.
There was a trend for a few years, and I think it's still kind of lingering a little bit, of these fees that are mostly designed to scare people away. Right. And if you balk at the $300 tasting fee, which is absurd, then the $600, $700 bottles of wine probably aren't in your budget. And
exactly.
My argument to that is you do not have to spend that much money to get good wine in this valley. You start to pay for branding and name and exclusivity at that point. There are a lot of, as you know, very, very good places that charge a lot less. And by less, I mean, it's still average of $125 a bottle for some of these reds. But so it's not, I would say, budget, but it's not, $700 a bottle of wine.
And that's usually their top end wine. That's, that's their peak wine. But there's so many good small wineries in the valley. People think it's a big corporate place, but it's mostly families.
As you and I know, and people that have never been here before, they look for those the names they're familiar with, the really large national brands. And I tell people, you should be able to buy high-end wine on a store shelf nationwide and walk into a store in New York City, walk into the store in Florida and have high-end wine. But you need to physically make a lot of wine to be at that volume to buy good wine on a store shelf everywhere. But as you're saying, most of these places that we know are these smaller, they produce 500 to 1,500 cases of wine or 3,000 cases of wine a year, and you will never have heard of those places unless you stumble in their front door. So a lot of first-timer mistakes are kind of relying on those large national brands, not knowing that there are really good places they've never heard of before. And usually that's in the first trip, you kind of go to some of these places and check them out, and then start to fall into the much smaller family-owned spots on subsequent trips.
Well, you probably have had the same experience as I have, where people have given you the ones they really want to go to, and then you get add a particular one, and then their favorite winery in the day was the one that the guide picked out.
Yes. And I mean, wine is all about a sense of place. It's about tying what's in the glass to the location of where it's grown, where it's made. And if you have a wine that's really special to you, that's it was a first date wine or a large occasion for whatever reason, or you drink it every Tuesday because it's easy to find back home, there's a reason to go to those places, to tie that wine to its sense of place. And I never talk people out of that. I always ask that question on the phone when they have one of these kind of more commercial spots that is a big request of like why that was a request. And sometimes it is exactly that. It's a really special wine to us. We want to see where it's made. Other times it's I've heard of this before and somebody said that they enjoy it and therefore that's why we want to request it. And I go, okay, well, let's figure out what you actually are looking for. And if it still makes sense, happy, obviously, at the end of the day, we'll bring people wherever they like. But a big part of this job is to weed out kind of why some of those wild requests that might not fit their groups the best.
I remember I was talking with a winemaker one time when he was in school for pre-med. And he was dating a girl, and he went to the girl's home, to meet the family. And the father said, well, what year are you born? And he told him. And so he went to the cellar and pulled out a Stag's Leap wine cellars from that year.
Wow.
And poured it for him. He had never had a wine like this before. It just blew him away. And he changed his major. And then years later, he was one of the people who opened up the caves at Soda Canyon.
Oh, no kidding.
Which, when he got to the top of the hill, he was looking down at the vineyards where the grapes came from.
Wow.
That emotional connection is so important, that connection of place.
Yeah. Terroir. I mean, Alluvium Wine Tours. Alluvium is dirt.
Exactly.
It's all about the sense of place.
Yeah, along the sides of the river. Now, outside of Napa, because we tour both counties, what parts of Sonoma are do you have a particular fave?
Oh, regions? I mean, it's confluence of.
I'm not asking favorite wineries. I wouldn't do that.
The confluence of Healdsburg with Dry Creek, Alexander Valley, and Russian River Valley is so special because there's a lot to see there. But I mean, really, kind of western parts of the Russian River Valley and Sonoma coast are what I wish I could go out and explore more personally. I mean, just that it is some of the best Pinot growing region in the world. And it's a little bit, I wouldn't say I'm tired of Napa Cab. Obviously, we all love Napa Cab from being here, but it's really fun to kind of get out and explore some of these really foggy kind of growing environments that's just a little bit different than what we see over here in Napa, but also really not that far away.
Oh, no. And it's pretty. It's a pretty
it's gorgeous,
area.
Yeah.
And it's very intimate, and the space of the wineries are small, and they're all small family wineries. I'm trying to think, I mean, other than, kind of the Kendall Jackson tasting room, everything in that area is pretty small.
Very.
So it's funny, you was mentioning about Pinots. I just recently interviewed Claire Tooley, who is the master of wine for Boisset. And they had their tasting room in downtown St. Helena, where they're specializing in the Pinots of Burgundy, which is where the family's from. Because Burgundy, it's the place of Pinot, and it was the most studied land in France. They had, the church cataloged every single square foot of the growing land. And it's because Pinot is such a special wine. And of course, I think some of the best Pinots in the country come from right along our Sonoma coast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such
a
magical region. It really is. And, I think the fog is part of it. The redwoods are part of it. It's just magical. It really is.
I completely agree.
Now, do you have a particular part of Napa that you like more than others? Or
you could choose a favorite child.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
they're all. I mean, we know this because we do this all the time. But there are gems in every location, and sometimes too, just with planning itineraries, you're pulled in one direction more than another, and then you kind of start pulling from your Rolodex in that region from a logistics standpoint, just to make sure that the day flows smoothly together. But the mountaintop tastings are always so special, especially first thing in the morning, that 10 a.m. tasting. Oftentimes you're above the fog. For years, I lived up on Mount George and would, wake up above that fog line and then kind of descend into it, coming into Napa, and pick up clients who were very upset that their one day in Napa Valley was going to be a foggy, overcast day. And I would always have to say, it's okay. I promise the sun is coming out. I have already seen it this morning. And then, by the time you get to that first appointment, it's already starting to burn off, and then you have the gorgeous weather that Mediterranean climate that we're known for.
And these days, in fact, we're having abundant sunshine.
It's been fantastic. This has been a great summer for a lot of us that live here with the high 70s, low 80s. Probably could be a little bit warmer for the grapes, but everything seems to be flowing along smoothly.
It's a little sad that sometimes that the weather that's so nice for the tour guides isn't quite as good for the farmers.
Fingers crossed in the fall, though, it will, the growing season, the hang time for the grapes will be perfectly fine until they all come off the vine.
Yeah, exactly. So, but how are we moving forward? I mean, we've been seeing big shifts in the business in the last several years. What do you think?
Oh man, the $1 million question, $1 billion question. Napa's really changed. I mean, I've been here for about 15 years now, and it's changed a lot in 15 years. And I mean, there's always been kind of luxury tourism here, but it's really exploded. It seems like in the last 5 to 7 years, kind of pre-COVID. That's a great question. I think there's a bit of a reckoning happening right now that it's kind of leaned too far into the luxury tourism side of things. And, at its core, it's farming with selling wine. And that's really kind of the goal of the entire valley at the end of the day, is to sell wine. And how do you move back to that? Hopefully we haven't kind of priced ourselves out of a lot of it. It's not an inexpensive trip these days, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the macro economy. And so I think people are just still, pulling back a little bit on spending, and we'll see what that means in the short term.
Well, I think it's interesting. Just the other day, there was an article by USA Today, I believe, and they were ranking the top wine tours. And it was all done by voters. So, of course, it has to do with where there's more people. And the number one top one was after Dr. Constantine Frank in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, there's a lot of people who go there. So there was a lot of voters. This number 2 was Baldacci in the Napa Valley. And I've been to the Baldacci winery a number of times, as you have, and it's a very nice tour.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of great tours, and you wonder how, who rounded up all those votes. But the tourist side of what we do as guides, where we fill in information, we give them perspective, and when we bring them to a really good host who can tell them the story of the valley. I think that's something that sticks with them. That goes beyond just the selling of wine.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you need to stand out. If you're trying to sell your wine, you need to stand out with branding, I tell people, and this is maybe a little bit, from an outsider perspective of it's easy to make a good bottle of wine. You just have to buy really expensive fruit, pay the right winemaker, pay to age it, and all of a sudden you've got a really fantastic bottle of wine, but you put $200 a bottle into that cost, and now you need to get somebody that will pay you for it. That's a really hard part. And I think you find a lot of people that have come into the valley in recent years that have been very successful in other walks of life with everything else they've done, and as kind of a retirement hobby, so to speak, they want to make the best wine they possibly can. And that's not a compelling story for a lot of people, especially at these, $350, $400+ a bottle. You have to have that, the story behind it. I mean, as we were mentioning, wine is all about that sense of place, and the sense of place has everything to do with, the story behind who made it as much as it does the soil itself.
That's so true. And, it's when there are a lot of those people who made it, you see their bio, and, they made their money in this area, and then they decide to make wine. Oh, that's nice.
And and you can be very successful doing everything else, and just to come in and say that you would like to make 100-point wine. Well, yeah, everybody does. I mean, that's what everybody's striving for, is this perceived perfection that it's hard to do. But you have to. The real hard thing to do is to convince somebody to part ways with their money to buy your wine, and that's a bit harder of an equation to solve.
And feel connected to the winery that you want to keep buying the wine. The wine clubs are the crown jewel of wine country. It's funny. We do tour books. You've seen our books before, and people will say to me, "Oh my God, it's such a complicated book. How do you do this?" It's easy. It's like making a bottle of wine. Just start 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And wine is like that. In Italy, they say, the grapes I'm harvesting were planted by my parents, and I'm planting grapes that my kids will harvest, because especially there, they wait 10 years before they get their grapes. It's all about the long term.
Yeah. this generational outlook as opposed to kind of the shorter term. I mean, it's really hard to come in and, I mean, you can't start last year and start making 100-point wines now, right? It really has to be a decades long passion project. That helps if you start before retirement.
Oh yeah.
But that's just been, there's a lot of those price points that keep kind of popping up, and as I'm sure you get courted all the time by these places, bring us guests, and it's like I would love to. I'd love to have those guests that can afford those bottle prices all the time. But the reality is, like, not everybody has $10,000 to drop on it, at every winery they go to for a case of wine.
Yeah, exactly. Unless there really are collectors, and there's simply not that many collectors.
Yeah.
There's quite a few, but.
Well, wine is a beverage. It's a consumable.
Yes.
I mean, like, what are these collectors, collecting instead? How many people are actually stashing these away for some, collection to show off as opposed to just enjoy it? I mean, that's why we're all here, is to drink it, enjoy it, to make these connections, meet people. And I think a lot of people can stomach those price points in that, as they should be, very good bottles of wine in the $75 to $150 bottle range. But above that, it's a tougher sell these days.
Well, they sell a lot more, Sauvignon Blanc than they do, Cabernet Sauvignon. They sell a lot more Chardonnay at $30 a bottle than they do, at the Petit Verdot at 120. I mean, it is a beverage. People want to be able to enjoy it, but it's also, the experience is so important. I think that's why the guides are really we have a very special profession, because part of what we plan is what's the ride going to look like.
Yep.
It's
there's a lot that this region has to offer between Napa and Sonoma County. I mean, there's 1,000 different experiences that you can choose from. And so that's the benefit that we have, is being able to find those right connections, those right three, perfect stops for every group. And so there's always kind of something out there, but the floor these days keeps getting higher and higher. And so it's trying to find something for the everyman that this place is just, I think, kind of lacking at the moment. And maybe that's okay. I mean, maybe that's this is one of the top wine growing regions in the world, and that's you're not going to have something at the commodity level pricing, but that's I think there still is a sweet spot out there for kind of that $75, $100 a bottle, which should be a phenomenal bottle of wine at this price point. For most people that travel in, that's a very expensive bottle of wine for them, and that makes sense. It's 750 milliliters of liquid.
Right, exactly. Well, there was a shop here that was called 7. And I think there's one of the places where these tasting fees really are helpful is that if you go in and spend $75 for the tasting fee, you don't feel guilty about not buying a bottle of wine.
Yep.
Yep. Guess what? I got to experience that wine. I got to experience it at its best because it's been in the cellar. It's been protected. It's being poured into perfect crystal glasses in a gorgeous location. They always say we were Disney World, for Disney World for adults, but this is like going to the top of the Eiffel Tower. This is like the premium experience. I think that experience is really valuable because one, it affects their whole understanding of taste. Not just the palate, because you never forget a flavor, but also just understand cultural taste. Why do people design the bottles the way they do?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see kind of what total visitation numbers are. I mean, for the most part, though, Napa Valley and Sonoma County, I imagine, is really vying for U.S. tourists. I mean, international tourists obviously are great and welcome. They tend not to buy a lot of wine because it's hard to travel with it, and vice versa. I mean, we went to Portugal a couple years ago and loved it. I couldn't bring much wine home. I would have brought cases if it was easy to bring back, but it's hard to get it in. So it'll be. And then if you're on the East Coast, I mean, it's as easy of a flight to get over to Europe as it is to come out west. And so if the exchange rate is in your favor and places are a lot cheaper, or at least more interesting and intriguing at the moment, because you'd been out to Napa in 2022, 23, when it was harder to travel. I get it. So I hope that people rebound sooner than later, but we'll see where that
The one thing that does always save us, and this has happened, I've been doing this 20 years now, the one thing that does save us is there's a certain point in the year when everyone realizes I'm running out of wine.
Yes. And we can ship direct.
And we know where the wine is. And so they come out like sometimes very late in the season. I used to say that we get the same number of people every single year. They just come at different times.
Yeah.
Because they know that the very best wines never arrive in the store.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing too, I mean, we think we've talked a little bit about hotel pricing. I mean, it's in a very expensive trip these days. There are certain times a year where the hotels are empty, and it's a lot easier to travel out here and a lot cheaper of a trip. Just if you adjust the timing a little bit. I mean, December, January, February can be gorgeous here. It could be 70 degrees and sunny. It could be raining, but there are worse things to do on a rainy day than sit next to a fireplace watching it drizzle outside, drinking some Napa Cabernet Sauvignon.
And it's misty and it's romantic.
January, February, when the mustard flower's out, I absolutely love it here. As opposed to, we're sitting here in August and it's been a gorgeous summer. Highs in the 80s, but sometimes it can be triple digits, which is necessary for grapes. But the last thing you want to do on some of those really hot days is a glass of red wine until it starts to cool off in the evening.
And the other thing is that in the tasting room, the staff is so happy to see you. They'll never rush you. The hardest thing for the tour guide is getting them out of the tasting room
to go off to the next.
They don't want to let them go. But generally speaking, it is a fantastic time to come. And over the years, I have had some spectacular Januaries, billing in Januaries and Februaries. Yeah.
It's not that it's a bad time to come in the summer. It's just that I think it's a bit of a sleeper time in the winter. It can just be so gorgeous in a different way. You just got to bring your jackets.
Exactly. So when you arrived here, you weren't married.
That's correct.
And you're married now, and you have a child.
We married 22, child in 24, and it's been a busy couple years.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. And your wife doesn't work in the industry.
No, she doesn't. She's got a normal 9 to 5
nice.
Monday through Friday. So it's kind of nice to split the difference between normal industry and healthcare and kind of this crazy roller coaster that is luxury tourism.
Well, it also takes a certain type of personality to do this for an extended period of time.
Sure.
You have to be someone who likes people.
Yeah.
You have to like history, for instance. You have to like storytelling.
Yeah. This valley and this job, it's all about those connections and those people you meet and the connections you have with clients. And I mean, that the core of our business is building those connections with clients, and that's what keeps them coming back, and that's what keeps us here and able to live this life.
Yeah. Well, also the relationships with the people in the wineries.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when I first started doing this, I was working on the book, and I stopped doing it. And I really missed seeing my friends at the wineries and seeing the clients who were showing up. I missed the connections. And I think that was one of the things that brought me back to it.
It helps you appreciate where we live because sometimes it's easy to start to take it for granted. But every time you get in the car with somebody first thing who's never been here before, and you start driving up, and their wonder that they have of, oh my God, I can't believe you get to live here. You're like, oh right, that's true. It's the Silverado Trail is gorgeous, and we get to drive this a lot.
Yeah, it's when my daughter came out for a vacation. My daughter and grandchild came out, and she lived here. And she said, I forgot how beautiful it is.
Yep.
She'd been away. She's on the East Coast. She had just forgotten how gorgeous it is. And I don't think I ever get over that. But there's times when you are so busy that you don't notice it as much.
I always respond, you can move here too. It is a free country. And, we do need doctors and lawyers and chefs and you name it. Napa's a pretty big city that most professions are there in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly. So, Holden, thank you so much for doing this. It was very, very illuminating. It's great to get another tour guide's perspective.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.